Welcome back, everyone, to the Goonerverse, and it's our first live stream for quite a long time. I think the last time we did one was when the home kit was announced. Had a bit of fun doing the tier list. And it's been a while doing these because obviously with the Goonerverse 2, we've been doing a lot of instant reactions to the news over there. But what I wanted to do with these live streams is evolve them slightly, be able to talk about things in a bit more detail with you lot in the comments. But also still maintain that while we're covering news, we're still able to actually bring some kind of depth and analysis to the conversation. That's what we're going to try and do now. Honestly, I was going to do this last night. I was going to do this about 14 hours ago, 10 p.m. on the Goonerverse, but I had such a chock-a-block day. I was at AFTV all day. I did the DR stream. We then did the call-in show on AFTV from here. And I just thought, you know what? I think you've all heard plenty of thoughts and opinions on this Christian Norgaard stuff and Thomas Partey stuff across yesterday. The dust has settled a bit. And the one thing I do like about doing the later live streams is I think there's a bit more clarity of thought. I love taking in the opinions of lots of others. I love hearing what people whose opinions, like George off the Cannon podcast and Ben Matson, of course, does Transfers Explained. I mean, I've got some of their tweets that I want to go through and actually talk about what their opinions are on this particular deal. I want to let you know kind of how after a night's sleep has kind of sat with me. You know, basically, Partey and Jorginho have gone. Zubimendi and Norgaard have come in. I mean, that's essentially what Arsenal have done this summer to their sixth position. And the question I'm asking is, have Arsenal upgraded their sixes? Are we better for having those two than we were having Partey and Jorginho? And the reality is it can be answered in so many different ways, because you can answer it in pure quality. You can answer it looking at a profile of player that Arteta wants in that position. You could answer it purely in experience and what they've achieved and what their highest level has been, and actually not really quite looking at what they could get to in a different environment, in different teams. There's kind of a lot of things to talk about, but also want you guys to really let me know what you think in the comments. And I'm just going to go through some of them now. Andy Fox has come in with some early opinions saying the short answer is yes, Zubimendi is better than Partey according to Andy. And he says Norgaard equals Jorginho. Maybe I agree with that in terms of level and quality. I'm not sure I agree with that in terms of the types of player they are. I'm not saying you're saying that, by the way, but just for the sake of adding a bit more to that conversation. John, hello. Welcome to the stream. Hope you're good. Ryan, always good to see you. Of course, saw you yesterday on the AFTV Live. And always telling people to hit the like button. A big thank you, Ryan. You're the best. John saying, oh, I've lost it. Sorry, here we go. The same people moaning about letting Partey go. The same people moaning that Jesus and Havertz on 250k each. Stop moaning for the sake of moaning. Smash the likes for James, he says. I really, really appreciate it. Hello, Zarbin. How you doing? Nando says, James, think this is a bad thing to let Partey go. Masood, hope you are good. And lots of you in the comments already, so I really, really appreciate it. Okay. I will come back to what you have to say. I will just start by, because we're going to be live for another 27 minutes, about half an hour in total. And for anyone who missed it, I mean, this is basically what happened through the day. Arsenal submitted a proposal of 11 million euros for Christian Norgaard, and then Romano credits Mads Glenn Waylast for the early information. Negotiations ongoing as Brentford want more and talks continue. This was very early yesterday. So that's something else. So that was quite early yesterday. And then lots more started coming out. Romano confirmed that Thomas Partey was set to leave as a free agent at the end of the month. Story from last week confirmed, because Fabrizio, along with a few others, I think Ghana Soccernet too, were at the forefront of saying, look, it doesn't look like Partey is going to renew. Arsenal have already activated the options to replace Partey, and Norgaard talks ongoing. We'll get to all this other stuff in a little bit. Now, what was this? Ryan Taylor Sports says that Norgaard had signed a 2-year deal at Brentford in late March, could have left as a free agent, but chose not to as a family is settled in London. Transfer to Arsenal not done yet. Of course, we know it is now. Reluctant to sell, but transfer. Okay, anyway, so that clearly earlier in the day, a lot of things changed. Right, Simon Motbell then came in and said that Arsenal want to do this deal. We'll get the opinions of George and Ben very soon, because I definitely want to talk about them. Hand of Arsenal at the forefront of a lot of this, saying that Arsenal have agreed personal terms. Again, we'll come back to the Sesko stuff in a little bit. Ornstein then comes in with Arsenal in the press of finalising agreement with Brentford to sign Norgaard. This is all happening so quickly throughout the day. I mean, that was 19 hours ago. And that initial Romano, well, okay, so it must have been, I know, it was more than 24 hours ago. But as you can see, I mean, the updates were just pouring in throughout the day. Then we had this from Sammy Mockbell. Arsenal advanced talks with Brentford over a move for Christian Norgaard. Genuine interest in Agume, but Arteta wanted Premier League proven player. We'll talk about that in a little bit too. And then, of course, here we go, Kevin. Christian Norgaard to Arsenal. Here we go. Agreement done to club. 11 million proposal. So we're getting for about 9 million. Personal terms also agree Norgaard set for medical. Brentford have authorised the player to travel. New midfielder will replace Thomas Partey in the squad. And then this was from earlier today. Christian Norgaard has been authorised to undergo medical at Arsenal after deal agreed with Brentford. Next signing after Kepa and Zubimendi done. So, having slept on it a little bit, my thoughts are basically this. Having slept on it, and obviously, I don't think they've changed massively from yesterday. If you did watch any of the content AFTV and DR did. To start answering the question, have Arsenal upgraded their sixes? I'm not sure I can say we definitely have, but I think I can say that Arteta's got more of what he trusts in those two positions. I think availability is something that Arteta values. I think he always rated Kieran Tierney, but the fact he couldn't stay fit, I think, was a big problem for him. I think the reason he brought in so many sixes was because Partey, as much as he rated him, couldn't stay fit till this last season. I think he rates availability in Zubimendi and Norgaard. Though Norgaard's injury record's not perfect, largely deliver on that front. I think Zubimendi, when you look at the off-the-ball stuff, there's a in-focus/tactical insight, basically a breakdown video I did with Graham. And we talked about a lot of the defensive work, a lot of the really impressive defensive numbers that Zubimendi puts up. For someone who's seen as like a Jorginho type player, Zubimendi's very good at reading the game. And though he's not the most athletic, sort of does some good work defensively. So Arteta will trust him over a Jorginho defensively. And Partey wasn't the best defensively. He was good. He could recover. He has strength and speed. But I'm not sure positioning was always quite there. And I think maybe he trusts someone like a Zubimendi in that sense. Norgaard's undoubtedly defensively very, very reliable. I mean, he covers ground well. Maybe not got that massive burst of pace into big spaces, but defensively very sound, very good attacking and defending set pieces. Got some decent dynamism about him. So I think he probably feels like he's got two more defensively reliable players in the sixes. But there's no doubt that Partey and Jorginho were elite on the ball. Like two very, very good players. And you saw when we didn't have Partey in the game against PSG, it was a shame how much we had to shake up the midfield to get Rice in the 6, to get Marino in the 8, when Jorginho obviously had that rib injury and couldn't play. So what's really important is that we don't let stats, because I will bring stats to you, but it's important we don't let them dictate everything we know about a player. Let me just get some stuff in front of me. I want to show you this. Okay. So the first thing I want to show you, I want to go on FBref, which I've got right in front of me. I want to show you some of the passing data. Okay. Right, let's share this screen. You should be able to see it. Okay. So we're looking here at, make that a little bit more condensed for you. We're looking at Zubimendi in La Liga versus other midfielders. And when you scroll through some of his data, passing data is pretty good. I mean, it's very good. A lot of greens there. Yeah, a lot of them not in the 80th, 90th percentiles, but yeah, some interesting data there. You can compare it to Thomas Partey's, which I did in a video, in a Goonerverse video that came out a couple of weeks ago. Partey tends to excel in these passing numbers, but at the same time, it's not, you're comparing two different players in two different teams asked to do two different things, playing at two different levels in different leagues. There's so many things to consider. You look at sort of the pass types, a lot of passes attempted, live ball passes, passes on free kicks, a lot of the other things. Look, I'm just kind of giving you like an overview. Why am I giving an overview? To make a bigger point in a sec. Defensive numbers, pretty good. Now I want to just go to Christian Norgaard. Great. Where is it? Should be right here in front of me. Yes, it is. Right. 24-25 Premier League. Scroll down. I always like this. Similar players to Christian Norgaard. It's interesting. Anyway. Shooting numbers are good. There we go. Might get a good goal from distance, but look, passing data is not particularly impressive. Like none of these. Progressive passing distance, cool. But none of these are sort of massively impressive, nor the pass types. Whatever, you get my point. Now let's go to Jorginho very quickly. So we've got Jorginho here. Again on FB Ref. Page is taking ages to load. Oh, don't do this. Okay, so 24-25 Premier League. And we go down. And this is what I mean. Look how many of the passing numbers are in the 80th, 85th, 90th percentile, near 90 there. So some really impressive passing data for Jorginho. Now, the reason I'm showing you all that isn't to say like, oh, you should sort of, take all that as saying Jorginho is kind of elite on the ball and the other two aren't very good. It's more to make the point that you can look at it from just a data perspective on a sheet and go, well, we've lost something in ball progression. We've lost something in terms of an ability to build up because it's not Jorginho or Partey. Jorginho is very, very good at positioning himself and running a game of football. He was so good at being the metronome. Everything just ran through him. Partey was very, very good at receiving the ball under immense pressure, and actually with not just by sort of releasing it first time even. He was very good at actually riding a challenge, using his body, turning a player and carrying into space. He was very good at that, Thomas Partey. Now, will Zubimendi or Christian Norgaard be able to do those things? I think Zubimendi has got a burst to carry. I think he's got a turn of into some space to put off a pass, and Christian Norgaard has got some height and athleticism about him to work a space. But a lot of it will be down to positioning, intelligence of positioning, where and when they receive the ball, request the ball. Do they drop between the centre backs to sort of make space for the midfielders in front and split the centre backs? Do they hold the ball into more congested areas? Do they take 2-3 players out of the game when they receive it? All these things will be a part of how good we are in build up. When you look at the opinions of people, like I said, I really respect. I just want to get it here on screen. Here we go. It suggests that you can't always just pay attention to data. George, of the Cannon podcast, a cheap, Prem-proven win-now DM to replace our outgoing version. Many may complain at the age, but Norgaard is a battle-tested captain with incredible composure under a high press who has great transition control. I see it as the Jorginho Trossard mould over Cedric and Willian. Ben Mattinson says, stopgap, so we add depth now, most of our budget and attack, and don't block the pathway for an elite prospect like Buadi or expensive midfield signing next summer. If that's the reason, I don't mind it. Prem level squad player, but I prefer someone who'd have sell-on value. So look, they have slightly different opinions on it, but they're people who feel largely fairly positive about the deal. If not Ben, maybe slightly not as enthused as George. But George, I just want to read that line again. Battle-tested captain with incredible composure under a high press who has great transition control. George watches a lot of football. He scouts a lot of players. Like, he spends a lot of time watching not just Arsenal, and I rate his opinion very highly. If he's saying, that this is someone who's incredible under pressure, where passing data and stuff gives the impression this is more a defensive ball-winning midfielder, and he's coming in going, yeah, but if you look at how he plays, there is a composure there. There is something, because you need to have that if you're playing as a six for Arsenal. Then I pay real attention to that, and I think I'm going to have to watch a lot more of Norgaard, go through his comps, and get to understand the player a little bit more, to get a real idea for what who we're signing here. When I've watched him, my impression has been good on the ball. And I think you've got Thomas Frank and Brentford are one of the most varied teams tactically in the league. I think when they came in, they played a back three with wing backs. They had a front two. They've played with a 10. They've played with a front three and a back four more recently. They've done a lot of different things, Brentford. And Norgaard's kind of always been at the heart of that team. And sometimes they've been direct. So he's had to progress the ball quickly up the pitch. With that, you can lose the ball. With that, you can take responsibility to do something quite difficult in the game and it not come off. And then that's a bad stat technically. But, it was probably a good thing to try, a good thing to do. It shows bravery, it shows daringness, whatever. But sometimes, they can build up, they can play. Thomas Frank's the new Tottenham manager for a reason, because he's going to play good football. And Brentford have always been a very entertaining team, whether they've decided to go along into Tony and, play in a more kind of over the top, kind of, don't know how to explain it, kind of typical Barclays kind of way, or they get on the ball, they get the ball on the floor and play, and they've had players to do that, whether it be Norgaard, whether it be Yarnell, whether it be Damsgaard, whether it be whoever. So a lot of the stats might be impacted by the position. Brentford are in the league, by the way, very good side, and the particular role he has in the squad. So there's all these things to consider when you look at stats. So just want to take this all the way back to the point I was making earlier. Have Arsenal grade on their sixes? I think in Zubimendi and Norgaard, they've got two fit the mould defensively that Arteta wants a little bit more. On the ball, are they Partey and Jorginho? I think Zubimendi will be. If he's not now, which I think he easily could be, then I think he will get there. I think he will be like, I think we'll be watching him thinking this is a guy who's really top in possession. And I think in Norgaard, he might surprise us. I think he might surprise us. But the reality is we also need to look at Jorginho playing very few minutes last season. Partey absolutely proved his fitness across last season's campaign, but there were 4 previous years before that, albeit 22, 23 was good from him in terms of availability. And by the way, that was probably the best version of Thomas Partey we've seen, although last year he was very, very good too. Largely he's not really been available for big games and for large spells. And that would have played a part in Arsenal's decision on whether to keep the player, because I'm asking a question about whether they upgraded their sixes. But the reason Arsenal would have had to make this decision was because they couldn't agree a contract with Thomas Partey. And the reason they couldn't agree a contract was because reportedly he wanted a pay rise in a 2-year deal, and we weren't willing to do that. So Arsenal are right to kind of consider all these different things. Ultimately, they felt not giving Partey a new deal was the right thing to do. So is Norgaard, again, it's Zubimendi for Partey and it's Norgaard for Jorginho. At one point, Arsenal wanted Zubimendi and Partey. And for those who are saying it's disappointing because we should have had both of them, I can kind of see that, but I can't really begrudge the club making this decision because I don't think it really made any sense. And also, we need reliability next season in terms of availability. And while Partey was available for a lot of last season, again, was that just kind of a 22-23 season that was going to be followed by 23-24 where he barely was? It's really hard to know. And Norgaard and Zubimendi give you more guarantees on that front. Jorginho was at an age and maybe kind of slowing down in a way that maybe Arteta didn't trust him quite enough to play as much, because in 23-24, Jorginho was kind of crucial to the team. In that really big run from January to May, he played a lot of really important football. So I want to stress that Zubimendi and Norgaard, I don't think, are at the level that Partey and Jorginho have got to at their best. Partey at his best, Jorginho at his best. Those two are elite number 6s who Zubimendi and Norgaard can't, for me, they're not at that level. But are they better than the current versions of Partey and Jorginho? And Zubimendi's 26 and only getting better. So I guess my next question would be, is Norgaard better? Is Norgaard of 24-25 better than Jorginho of 24-25? Well, yeah, probably. Played 34 Premier League games for a good side in Brentford. I think finished, 9th, 10th in the league? Maybe a bit higher, maybe a bit lower. So clearly, there's a very, very dependable midfielder that has been at the heart of Thomas Frank's team for a little while. So again, I'll let you guys in the comments tell me, is Zubimendi today better than Partey today? I haven't watched enough of Zubimendi to say that, but I thought Partey was really impressive last year. So those are kind of all my thoughts just off the bat. I'm going to go through some comments now. We'll answer a little bit more, and then we'll talk about the Sesko stuff that emerged very quickly. But I'd love to know your thoughts on all that. That was just kind of me gathering everything in one go. Ultimately, having slept on it, I think for what Arteta wants next season, I think we have got upgraded is difficult because, like I said, Norgaard and Zubimendi haven't got to Jorginho and Partey's levels when they're at their best. But I do think we've got much closer to what Arteta wants in those positions. I think. I don't know. Let's see. Maybe that's pure copium. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. We'll go through super chats, go through your comments. Thank you to everyone who's sending in super chats. And then, like I said, we'll talk about the Sesko stuff in a sec. So let's go through what you are all saying. Arsenal have made it official on their app, have they? Okay. Interesting. Right, Nando says, unless we also bring in that lad from Seville. Agume, I don't think will come this summer. There's some rumours that he could still, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think that'll be next summer, or a younger midfielder could be next summer. Zarbin, another really great point. Lewis Skelly can play as a defensive midfielder, and we're looking at Joel Hato as well. So I just think Arsenal thought we are so covered there with Zubimendi as our starter, with Norgaard for 10 million and on significantly less wages, and Lewis Skelly can do a job. We don't need to force it, and I can kind of understand that. Okay, what else have we got? Masood says, I also view Norgaard signs make our Carabao Cup team better because I believe the drop off between the league team and our cup team is too big. Do you know what? Actually, on that, Masood, Yeah, I agree in terms of, like, again, Jorginho. I mean, I think he had some really good performances in the Cups for us. In the FA Cup against Liverpool, we got knocked out at home, and in the Carabao Cup always did his thing. But you know what I'd say? It's more that whenever we played Jorginho in there and you had to get in a Vieira or a Waneri or whatever, and it was a little bit more lightweight around, you felt that Arsenal were losing a key essence of their midfield, just to have some physicality and presence in there. With Norgaard, it feels like we've got a lot more of the presence and experience that Jorginho's experience, but a lot more of the presence that Arteta kind of favours in the team. So I agree, it could help us for the Cups and for rotating more throughout the league and Champions League campaign. I have a really itchy nose. It's really annoying. Miss H, new subscriber. Thank you very much for joining. I really appreciate it. Right, what else have we got? So I just saw this. Let me find it. Someone said, yeah, pick up Deluda Guna. He's doing a video saying Partey is staying. Well, this did do the rounds. Let me show you this. Bear with me. Here we go. Can you all see this? Thomas Partey on Instagram working with Saliba, Timber, and Arsenal staff. So yeah, there's obviously Partey there. This is on his Instagram, and there's sort of Arsenal players, and what's that? Is that London Colney maybe? So yeah, I don't know what that means. Gabriel posted something about Thomas Partey too. Imagine he stays and Norgaard stays too. Norgaard joins. I mean, that would be strange. But I don't know. I think Partey's going. Adash actually follows on to that with this question. What if Norgaard is a backup for Rice? Strong box crasher and decent box movement. Still think Lewis Skelly might play in Arteta's mind as a backup for a 6 along with Rice. I think he might use Norgaard in a few different ways. And it could be as that box-to-box, but I don't think he will use him predominantly in that area. I think he'll play him much more as a 6. Michael says, Zubimendi is an upgrade on Partey. 100% my main issue with Partey is tempo, progresses the ball well, but doesn't understand tempo like Jorginho and Zubimendi do. Pass selection comes into this knowing when to break the line. Interesting, Michael. I think breaking lines something Partey does really well. But I think in terms of tempo, that's interesting. Can he slow it down sometimes? I just think he's better when the game is brought to him. When he's pressed, I think he's very good at using his body to open the game up. So yeah, and if Zubimendi is an upgrade on that, then fair play. I look forward to seeing him in an Arsenal shirt. Lewis Skelly signed his new contract, has he? Is that what everyone's telling me? Let me see if I can find it. Has it been announced? Lewis Skelly. Yeah. Let me show you this. Yeah. I want a legacy. I want to win everything there is to win in the game. I want to win trophies on the biggest stage while being a person that is always learning and stays grounded, which is so important. There is with Berta. Great to see signed his new contract. Thoroughly deserved. Well, thank you for letting me know that, guys. I really appreciate it. Good evening from Australia. I miss Australia. What a place. Will I be at the Emirates Cup? I might be. Have they confirmed when that's going to be yet? I'll try. Okay, what else have we got? Let's go through your comments and super chats. James just out of bed again. Absolute nonsense. I've been up since 7 a.m. Okay, I'm a very like early riser since Australia. I don't think I ever quite shook off the what's called jet lag. Thank you very much, Tipsy. I like that name. Thank you. Let's go through the other super chats, make sure I haven't missed any. But thank you to everyone who's joining. I've seen Suj in the building as well. Good to meet you yesterday. Loads of content, lots of comments coming through, which I really appreciate. Prith Viraj says Pep spent 100 million for Rodri's cover. Yeah, what across Reinders and Nico, I think you're saying. I think the price and player combo is a steal. Good signing. He will be 80 to 90 grand a week, which is double what he was making. Yeah, very true. Suj says, big up, James. Hit the likes and subscribe, people. Thank you, Suj. Always good to see you here. Flight Mode says, battle tested at what level? Would we be happy with him starting a Champions League semi-final? Low risk value, but high risk in terms of quality, in my opinion. But I think this is someone who has just done 4 whole years in the Premier League and held his place and been looked around everyone who watches Brentford as a very, very good, a very steady player. So you make the point, would you want him starting a Champions League semi-final? But then I'll say this to you. I'd rather Norgaard starts at the 6 against PSG with Rice doing his box-to-box role than having to move Rice to bring in Marino, because we'd have all said Marino was Champions League tested before we signed him from Sociedad, that he'd won a trophy of the Copa del Rey with Sociedad, that he had scored in the Euros for Spain. There's lots of stuff to say that Marino was kind of ready to go, but actually the makeup of our midfield wasn't right. So I hear your point, but I don't think that's everything. Reshi says, Zubi kept a Norgaard for 50 million smart business. Not exciting, sure, but Edu was letting Mikel throw 65 million on Kai not long ago. Look, I think it's just necessary business. Zubimendi is a very good signing. Kepa and Norgaard are necessary signings, and I'm happy with that. A lot of people ask, would you have been happy with it at the start of the window? Yeah. I think I would. If someone genuinely said, Partey's going, we need a backup keeper, and we're going to bring in Norgaard and Kepa, I think I'd have gone, okay. My biggest thing is that I wanted us to sign a different type of central midfielder, more of a attacking 8, number 10 type. That's what I really wanted to see. But we're not getting that. So if it's a case of, well, we just simply need a backup, then I'm kind of okay with it. The real bread and butter is what we do with the left winger and the forward. That's where we're really going to learn what Arsenal are made of in this window. Brith Farage says, and we are not using Sambi for Partey, getting a much better... I forgot about Sambi Lokonga. I think him and Vieira might play some minutes in pre-season. I really do. Maybe not Vieira, actually, because he's at the Club World Cup. Cam says, James, as a whole, do you think the passing ability, athleticism in the midfield is lacking? Yeah, I do. I don't think athleticism is not a problem. Ødegaard is like arguably the least athletic of the midfield options we have. And he still runs like crazy and gets stuck in, or tries, he presses, he works hard, right? Otherwise, you got Waneri, Marino, Rice. Because Marino he gets up and down. He's got an engine. He might not be the fastest, but he can move. Yeah, Norgaard, Zubimendi. I think it's technical. In terms of technical players that can just get on the ball in midfield and run a game, I think Ødegaard and Zubimendi are the only two we've got. I think Norgaard and Rice maybe can do that, but we need to see more of it. Yeah. But it's not João Neves and Vitinha and Fabian Ruiz. I appreciate that. But there's different ways to win football matches. Ibal says, if we can get Rodrigo, Sesko, and Gyökeres, Gyökeres, and Hato, we will need to get a statue for Berta. Let me say, so you're saying if the window is from goalkeeper to the forward line, if the window is Kepa, Hato, Norgaard, Zubimendi, Rodrigo, Gyökeres, I think that's a very, very good window. I don't think it's an exceptional window, because I think there are questions over Gyökeres. People will be underwhelmed by Kepa and Norgaard, but you brought in Hato, you brought in Zubimendi, Rodrigo would be serious. Do you know what? Actually, that'd be a very, very good window, wouldn't it? I'd be happy. Of course, I'd be happy. Of course, I'd be happy with that. But I would also be, I don't know. I'd still be conscious of the holes we have in the squad, like, what we have in the number 10 position, what we have, what we have in terms of creativity and right-footed creativity as well, and the different types of midfields we can put out together. I feel like we've just had a lot of the same kind of players as backups to the starters. So that'd be my one thing. Final super chat of the day. Ali says, James, do you think Arsenal will be more exciting this season? I really hope so. I feel like last season was boring. Arteta was too risk-averse and too focused on the opposition. Norgaard signing doesn't help. I agree. Norgaard, and it doesn't scream that we're looking to evolve beyond that and do much more with our midfield. But I do think Arteta is going to recognise that we have to be more front-footed and get goals in this team, because otherwise, ultimately, yes, defence wins titles, but you got to score goals, and Arsenal are miles off on the goal scoring front. So thank you for your super chat, Ali. Thank you to everyone who sent in super chats and everyone who came in with some comments. I really, really appreciate you all tuning in. Nothing else for me to say, really. There was one thing. That this saga keeps going on. And if there's any updates, we'll let you know. But, yeah, this battle is raging on. Sesko Gyökeres, hopefully we'll see. We'll see quite soon what's going on with that. Everyone, that was my thoughts on whether Arsenal have upgraded their sixes. That's the big conversation and debate right now. But the point is, Christian Norgaard is signing for Arsenal. Arsenal got a new defensive midfielder. Partey's leaving in 4 or 5 days, although he seems to be training with Arsenal, which he's obviously entitled to do while his contract goes on. Let's see where he ends up, and we've got our replacement. So there we go. Arsenal have done some quick business in some areas, yet they're really taking their time with others. We're a funny old club. Anyway, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Catch you all in a bit.